How's it going, everyone? It's Javi from Weather Sponge 5000 here. Today is March 19th, 2021, and today we're going to focus on the weather that's going to occur in the United States for next week, where we do have the potential for some severe weather in the southeast, as well as some heavy rain throughout the entire East Coast, along with potentially major snow event that could happen in the upper Midwest states. But before I begin, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content. Make sure to like if you'd like this video, and make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather-related content. So let's begin by taking a look at this the overall United States map for what to expect for next week. And obviously, I listed down in the southeast, there's that possibility of severe weather in all throughout the southeast and extending as far north as the Ohio River Valley, along with the heavy rain that could happen all throughout the East Coast. So let's begin by taking a look at the GFS model regarding the severe weather forecast. And you see right now, we're obviously going to move past the forecast. We're gonna get out of this trough, I'd say, by very early Friday into later today, I should say, right around the afternoon. By the time you're watching this video, most of the precipitation should be out of the East Coast, which is definitely good news, and that should be it with this trough after bringing a multitude of tornadoes throughout the southeast. Thankfully, from what I heard, at least so far, no one has died, and while there have been several injuries, I think it could have been a lot worse, fortunately, and hopefully the death toll remains at zero. But outside of the precipitation that's going to be throughout the East Coast, we're pretty much going to be done with this chop, as it's going to move out into the open Atlantic. However, we need to keep track of this next chop that's going to come off the Northwest Pacific later next week. So if we take a look on Saturday, for most of the United States, you should be in the clear. But for a lot of the Northwest Pacific, there's going to be a lot of precipitation, as forecast throughout the Pacific Northwest for this March, since we're seeing that Pacific jet move through the Northwest Pacific and the jet stream dip just far south enough to bring those troughs further to the Northwest Pacific. However, along with the precipitation that's going to occur in the Pacific Northwest, we're also going to see a lot of troughs move east as a result, and we're going to see this one trough form right around, originate from the Pacific Northwest, from the open Pacific, move further to the southeast, and it's going to encounter an area of unstable air, just enough unstable air to re-strengthen this storm after weakening over the Rocky Mountains. And it should be at least a formidable storm to bring a decent amount of precipitation throughout the Midwest and potentially some snow, depending on how much cold air there will be going into early next week. I'd say Tuesday into Wednesday, where this trough will be closest to you guys in the northern Midwest states, and does have the possibility of dumping some snow. And you see, it's a pretty formidable low pressure system at 995 millibars, and we do see some snow on the northern fringes of the storm, along with the cold air and a slight jet stream dip just to the west of this storm. Now, to determine whether we're going to see snow from this really all depends on how far south that jet stream dips. We have to wait and see. But let's take a look at this next trough that's going to come right after this trough that could dump some snow in the Midwest. You see that this trough is already pretty formidable once it reaches Texas, and the thing that's a little concerning with this trough, that makes me more concerned with this second trough that's going to move through, is how much more cold air is going to be stored behind it. Because if we move into the Wednesday time frame, you see that there's a pretty well-defined jet stream dip, and this jet stream dip is allowing that cold air to interact with that very warm Gulf of Mexico air that's located all throughout the southeast, and that's going to create an area of relatively high instability, and high enough to not only develop a formidable low pressure system, but bring a lot of precipitation throughout the southeast and the possibility of some severe weather. As you see, the jet stream dip will be just pronounced enough to create an area of unstable air and create an area of just a lot of convection, and that could lead to very strong updrafts, which could create severe weather through the southeast, and also the possibility of some flash flooding because you see in the forecasted radar map from the GFS model, you see there's a large area where you're under the yellow contours or even in the orange contours where the rain's very heavy, and you see that the area of precipitation is very broad as well, so that raises a concern of flash flooding or maybe even typical river flooding as a result of how much precipitation and convection is occurring in this region. As it moves further up northward, you see that the rain extends along the Carolinas and then partially the northeast as well. And the European model is also agreeing with bringing a lot of rain along the east coast with this. However, in terms of their exact position, there are certainly some major differences which could make or break the storm for you guys for a lot of you for some areas in the northeast. So if we take a look at the precipitation forecast from the European model, you see if we move forward, there comes that second trough moving through, and you see there's a large area of precipitation throughout the Midwest. Oh wait, this is the first trough. I apologize, but you see that right behind this initial trough, you see that the second trough moves through, and the European does expect a lot of rain, just like what the GFS model is forecasting. And however, there are certainly some differences because I noticed that the GFS model is a little bit more eastward than the European model, where the European model is taking this low pressure system a little bit further westward. In fact, a lot further westward, where we see low pressure system really develop and really get much stronger than the GFS model, and it has a very typical extratropical cyclone look where we do see a lot of rain surrounding it on the northern side, as well as an extending band of rain or an extending band of thunderstorm squalls on the eastern side of this storm. So there's definitely, and what's worrying as well is that it's definitely like much stronger in the scenario where the storm is further westward. And I think the reason why is because the position of this jet stream is a little bit more in a position where the jet stream dip is more pronounced, and as a result, the jet stream winds are coming more from a southerly direction, which means that this storm is more likely to go straight up north rather than meander to the northeast like the GFS model is forecasting. And when we're talking about a more pronounced jet stream dip like this, it typically means that there's a lot more unstable air as a result of it, and that would create a bigger area of convection and a much stronger storm as a result of the increased instability in this area, and that will create a much more major, not only severe weather threat for the southeast, but a heavy rain threat as well for a lot of eastern half of the United States. And in this scenario where the low pressure system is a little bit more westward, obviously the states more westward will get impacted more, such as the Ohio River Valley states, which includes Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, while the Northeast and the East Coast might miss out on a lot of it. But since this storm will be so broad and large by the time it reaches the Northeast and dipping down to 984 millibars, which is a pretty strong storm, especially for this time of the year headed into spring. Since the storm is so large, you see that it's gonna impact a lot of Northeast states as well, with heavy rain and potentially severe weather along the eastern half of this storm, since there's going to be strong instability as a result of this storm. And since the storm is quite strong, it's going to bring strong northerly winds with it, and that'll bring the Arctic air further southward to interact with that warm Atlantic air, water vapor filled air. So as a result, this could be a major threat in terms of flooding and severe weather throughout the southeast. And while the GFS model does disagree when regarding the track of the storm, with the GFS model going well further to the south and east than the European model, it's still bringing a heavy rain and severe weather threat to a lot of the southeast. If we take a look at the convective available potential energy, or the surface based CAPE, based off what the GFS model is forecasting. And what that pretty much means is how much convective energy there will be in a specific area. If we take a look at that map right now, and what the convective available potential energy gives us is it really helps determine where the strong convection is occurring. And typically where strong convection is occurring, that's typically where the worst thunderstorms are occurring. And you see right around the 100, just past the 6 day mark, when that low pressure system moves into the southeast, you see there's a pretty large area of energy throughout the southeast, and this energy is strong enough to bring severe weather to the southeast. It isn't as strong as, let's say, this past trough that we've seen, but it's still strong enough to bring some severe weather as well as heavy rain throughout the southeast. So we definitely need to keep a close eye on that. And you see that the convective available potential energy is going as far as high as 1,500 joules per kilogram, which is quite large for a storm, for any situation pretty much in the United States. So is this definitely something to watch going into late next week, going into Thursday and Friday, where you guys could experience a major severe weather threat in the southeast, and you need to pay close attention to this over the next several days. However, there still is a lot of uncertainty, because while the GFS and the European model are agreeing that they're bringing a heavy rain threat and a severe weather threat to the southeast next week, there's still a lot of time to iron out the forecast, since I'm forecasting this pretty much beyond 5 days out, going into the 6, 7 day mark at times. So there's still a lot of uncertainty to regarding the track of the storm, how much unstable air will really be in the southeast when this trough moves through, and really how much rain there will be. There's still a lot of time to iron out the forecast, but it's concerning because both the GFS and the European model are taking some sort of jet stream dip moving through the United States and bringing a severe weather threat and a heavy rain threat to the southeast, which gives me a little bit more confidence that it will happen. But again, there's still a lot that could change within 6 days. So definitely take the current forecast from the GFS and the European with a grain of salt, but at least be aware that there could be a major severe weather and flood threat throughout the East Coast. So we just have to wait and see. But outside of the severe weather threat that's forecasted, we also need to keep track of this next potential snowstorm in the Midwest, which will come sooner than the trough I've been talking about that is forecasted to bring severe weather and heavy rain to the East Coast. And here's a trough right around the 102-hour mark, which is approximately 4 days from now. So it does get a little bit easier forecast, but still a lot could change between 4 days. So keep that in mind. But you see, heading into a 4 day mark, we do see a formidable low pressure system form as a result of a small jet stream dip, which will create enough of an unstable environment in the Midwest to really intensify the low pressure system just enough to bring a decent amount of precipitation through the Midwest. And there might be just enough cold air right around Minnesota and maybe extending to the Dakotas to bring a decent amount of snow. Right now, the GFS model isn't forecasting a ton of snow to impact the northern Midwest states. However, it's still certainly there's still a lot that could change, and it's certainly still bringing accumulating snow to the extreme northern portions of Wisconsin and Minnesota. And what is concerning is that the European model is taking a lot more snow in the northern Midwest states, and it's affecting a lot more people than what the GFS model is forecasting. And the European model tends to be slightly better when it comes to winter storms like this, but they're pretty much very similar. So we need to take both forecasts with a grain of salt. If we take a look at the snowfall forecast regarding this next snowstorm, you see that the European model is taking quite a bit of snow throughout Minnesota, and this extends to South Dakota as well, and Nebraska, almost said North Dakota. But you see that the European is taking close to or over a foot of snow with this next snowstorm, as it expects, as the European model is expecting just enough cold air and this storm to strengthen just enough to bring a major snowfall threat throughout the Midwest, and this is impacting Minneapolis, a big city right there, and maybe Omaha could get involved depending on the track of the storm, as it's forecasting a pretty big storm to move through the northern Midwest states headed into next week. If you take a look at the radar, you see that the European model is expecting just enough cold air to make it an all snow event for a lot of you guys in the northern Midwest states. And what's interesting is that it's moving the slow pressure system very slowly as a result of weak steering flow, which is different from the GFS, which is a little faster in moving this storm. Because if we move to the 150-hour mark, the storm is well off into the north, to the north and east. However, taking a look at the European model 150 hours from now, it's still lingering over the Midwest states, and that's concerning when we see a low pressure move that slowly over the same area, bringing heavy snow. So there's definitely a lot to watch regarding the forecast. In terms of the current snowfall forecast from the GFS model, you see that it isn't bringing it's bringing no snow at all to Nebraska and to areas I'd say just south of Minneapolis, which is quite interesting. And it's bringing the heaviest snowfall to the extreme northern portions of Wisconsin and Minnesota. So this is going to be interesting to see. There's still a lot of uncertainty regarding this forecast and a lot that could change. It really all depends on how much cold air will be located in the Midwest to bring snow to a lot of those areas, and how fast the storm will move, as those will be key that will be key in determining how much snowfall you'll receive in the Midwest. However, as of right now, just be aware and just stay alert for a snowstorm that could happen next week for you guys, because there's certainly the possibility of that in the Midwest. But yeah, guys, I guess that's it for this video. I thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather content. Make sure to like if you like this video. Make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather content. I hope you guys have a good day.